All right, so this is the part 2 video of us going through FreeCodeCamp's building a Rothko painting. I believe we left off at number 27, or we finished 27, getting ready to move to 28. I just want to say hi, welcome if you're new. My name's Rob. I'm with PreCodeCamp.com, and yeah, I am an instructor. I teach people how to become web developers, and this is what we're doing. We're going through FreeCodeCamp's free resources to help get you started and seeing if that's something that you'd want to do. And I'm going to be going through these exercises here as if I'm teaching this and learning something new and talking about some things that we're doing and why we're doing it. And so if that's something that interests you, then that's what this video here is for. It will be chaptered out down below. 28 through I think 45 is what we'll end up doing in this video in completing this FreeCodeCamp module. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we're on step number 28. And before we get into too many things here, like I said, as you're going through these, you're going to be running into problems or issues. And that's why I do have these things chaptered out. Please make sure that you like and share. And if you need to see the previous steps, they're in a different video that we have. So on here, it says for us to create a div with a class of 3 right underneath the 2 element. And I don't know why they keep describing this part right here, because it gives us this line for us to work with. But what it's asking us to do is create a div with a class. And what does that class name need to be? And that is going to be 3. Okay. And then we're just going to close off the div. That's all it's really wanting for this step. Again, we're not going to see anything happen on our page magically until these block elements actually have content in it, or we provide it some sort of width, height, and color. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and check our code. There we go. Let's move on to the next. So we are on to number 29. Now on here, it says that you don't always have to utilize pixels when you are doing the sizing of elements. And so on this new rule that we're going to create in CSS, so notice that we're in the CSS one now, go ahead and make the width 91%. Okay, so we can go ahead and do that here. Let's go ahead and do 3, and then we're going to set that to the width of 91%. Okay, now we're not going to see anything quite yet, and maybe I'll explain the width here in the next few steps once we get something visible to see, so that way we can change the number and see these values change. All right, but that's all it's really wanting for this one, and we're going to go ahead and move on to the next. Step number 30 has the height. We're going to do height of 28%, so we'll do height 28%, and let's go ahead and check our code. There we go. That one was nice and easy, but I believe the next one we're going to get some color. Okay, so we're in step number 31 of building the Rothko painting. We've done the height, we've done the width. Now it's time for the color, and we're going to do the background color, and then we want to set that to that hashtag there. Okay, so back to what does the width mean? And so the width here is saying, hey, I'm going to start all the way from the left-hand side, which is where we're at. You can see it's right here, all the way left. And we're going to go all the way to 91%. 91% of the available space. Because if I did 100 here, notice that it does go full width. And I know you can't see it because of my little circle, so I'm going to move myself up. But you can see how it goes full width across. And so what if you wanted to do half of the available space? Then we're doing 50%. So let's go ahead and change that to 50. All right. And there's the 50%. Okay. And then when it comes to height, if we did 100%, it's taking up the 100% of the available space that it has contained to the parent. So you can see what that looks like there. Okay. Anyways, that's what the height and the width percentages deal with when it comes to sizing. So not only do you have pixels to deal with, you have percentages, and there's other measurements as well as you go through. I don't know if we're going to get to it in this or not, but just know that they are available to you. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and check our work, and there we go. Congratulations. Moving on to the next. All right. So we are on step number 32. It says in order to center this element here, let's go ahead and do that by doing a margin auto. Okay. Now, I'm always encouraging students in the class that I teach and stuff that one of the good resources to have in your back pocket, if you're ever looking to go a little bit more into the learning part, or you're coming across something that you don't really know, is take a look at W3 Schools. Very good at, it's a free website for you to go to, and it will go a little more into depth. I wish that maybe they would put like little links in here to reference documents instead of keeping us isolated here in the FreeCodeCamp world. But if we take a look at the CSS margins here, it says the auto value. So you can set the margin property at auto, and it will horizontally center the element within its own container. Now, I'm going to say this because you can click on the try it yourself, and it will populate with this, minus a few things that I took out here. This part has it in it. Let's take a look at this right here. If I remove this width and hit the run button, this margin auto does nothing for us. So the container, or the item itself, it needs to have some sort of specified width for this to kind of work. So if I go ahead and do it, boom, now it is centered. If I take off the margin auto and I run it, notice that it's flush left to the right. Okay. It's just these things in combination make things happen, is what I'm trying to illustrate to you. And one of the most common questions that gets asked for beginning developers is, how do you center a div, right? And so multiple ways to go about that one as well. A lot of times students, we get frustrated. They're like, hey, I doomed the margin auto. It's not centering anything. And it may be centered, right? You're doing the margin auto, but it's the width that might be the issue for the parent, right? So anyways, just think about these things as we're going through it, and utilize W3 Schools for what it's there for, to help guide you and give you some instructions on what these things do and provide you with some examples of what they do. Yeah, so for this, we're just going to do margin. We're going to set that to auto, and then we're going to hit the semicolon, and that looks like that piece got centered okay. Go and check our code. We're moving on to the next. All right, on to step number 33. Let's see what's going on here. It says it would be helpful to have the margins push in one direction, meaning that the bottom of margin, the 1, so this one right here, is pushing number 2 down by 20 pixels. And so if we take a look at Y, we see that the margin up here, 20 pixels, that applies to the top and bottom. So that's why it's saying it's pushing it down 20, because if we look at margin 2, we have it set to auto. What does it want us to do? In the To selector, use the margin shorthand property, which is this right here, margin. And we want to set the top to be 0, the left and right to be auto, and then the bottom to be 20. So it gave us what it wants to type in here. So whenever we're having 3 sets of values, it's going to apply. Remember, it's like a clock, right? And it's going to apply to the top one first. It wants 0 on the top. Okay. Then the next selector can be for either left and right. Okay. Or it can just be for the right. In this case here, it wants it to be for the left and right. We're just going to put auto in there. And then the last one here, then it goes down on the clock, right? And so that's where the bottom 20 pixels comes from. And then we can go ahead and check our work here. There we go. Moving on to step number 34. All right. It says that the colors and the shapes of the painting, they're too sharp to pass for a Rothko, right? And so it wants us to use the filter property and the blur function on that property to set the painting to 2 pixels on the canvas. And so again, if you are truly learning this to become better or to learn about things, definitely W3 Schools would be something to take a look at, because yes, we have a filter property. Great. Is it just the blur, or are there more cool things that we can do with it? And if you do a Google search for W3 School filter, make sure you say CSS filter, because there's filter for JavaScript as well. So anyways, I would definitely take a look at some of these cool things that you can do with the filter function, and just make this special note here that really anything that we have CSS wise, any element, it automatically gets a none applied to it, which means that there's no effect. So that's the default value of a filter, but we want to apply the blur, The blur says it applies a blur effect to the image. The larger the value, the more of the blur. And if no value is specified, 0 is used. So anyways, it's just something to read about because you have brightness, you have contrast, you have drop shadow and grayscale and hue and rotate and invert, like all these different functions that can be applied to the CSS filter. Wanted to make a note of that. Now, obviously, there's tons of CSS rules, there's tons of things, and you're not going to always remember everything, and nobody expects you to. That's what documentation is for you to reference and look up, because there might be only a few select cases that you're going to be utilizing the blur effect on an element. So it wants us to apply a 3-pixel blur on here, utilizing that blur function. So here we're just going to type filter, and then we want the blur to be 3 pixels. And you'll start seeing that everything on here gets a little fuzzy. Maybe it even reminds you of maybe visiting a news article web page where you have to subscribe. They used to do that, but now there's blockers on there to block you from altering some of these effects. All right, so anyways, I digress. Let's go ahead and check our code. It says that we need to do a 3-pixel blur on the canvas. Oh, a 2-pixel blur on the canvas. I'm going to check our code after I do that. Even I couldn't read. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. Perfect. Let's move on. Okay, we're on step number 35, and it says here, create a rule that targets both the 1 class and the 2 class, and set their blur effect or increase their blur effect by 1 pixel. Originally, when I was looking at this, I don't know if they were wanting, it says increase, right? Which means that we are moving up from our original blur up here from 2 pixels to 3, right? Or does this 2 pixels here, and if we apply 1 more, does that make it the 3 that it's wanting? Because it says increase the effect by 1 pixel. So anyways, we're going to try doing 1 pixel first, and then we'll try the 3 if that one fails the test. We're going to combine both. We're going to target both of them utilizing a comma separated. We could actually put the blur effect in here as well as here, but that's repetitive code, and they would rather us do this with a .1, comma, .2, and then inside here we can do the filter, set the blur function, and we're going to do 1 pixel. Okay, now you may not see a difference or anything, but maybe the test will say, hey, that's correct. Let's go ahead and check our code. All right, that's what it was wanting. All right, moving on to the next. So step 36, now that we know what it's really asking for with this, that's a simple thing of making sure that we put our filter inside of our 3 class. So looks like line 39 is already there, and we're going to go ahead and type out the filter, and we want the blur to be 2 pixels. Okay, and then make sure we put our semicolon in there and check our code. Looks like that's what they wanted. Moving on to the next step. All right, step number 17. It says the rectangles are too small. Their edges don't have a soft quality of painting. So we can accomplish this by increasing the area and softening the edges of the 1 class with the box shadow. And so again, as we're going through some of these things that you may not have seen, may not be familiar with, and I'm assuming that's why you're going through the course or watching this video. But again, I'm going to keep bringing up some documentation to look at and reference, because each one of these values means something, right? And as we're going through this, we may not understand what they are. And the best way to go about it, right, is just typing in W3 Schools, box shadow, CSS. It should pop up in Google. And this is what it will reference here for you. And you can see that it starts off very simple with the explanation. Hey, this is your horizontal and vertical shadow. Okay, great. Next is, hey, we can add a color. Great, cool. Let's take a look at the stuff down here, because the one that I saw on the W3 Schools or on the FreeCodeCamp, it had four values on there, 4 numeric values, and then a hex code for color. Okay, then take a look at some of the examples. Okay, that I can see that it went 10 over, 10 down, and 5 pixel blur. Okay, and then it gave it a light blue instead of the traditional black gray. All right, this one here tells us what the for value is for. So now we have the horizontal, vertical, and then we have the blur, and then we now have the spread and then a color. Awesome. And then the more need to know kind of stuff is, oh, I didn't know that we can have multiple shadows on here also. So a lot of neat things that you can do with shadows to help make things pop and things. But like I said, explore some of these things as you're going through it. And like I said, just throw it in the back of your head as a little nugget to remember. And again, we're not saying, hey, memorize all these things on what they do. It's totally okay to come back to documentation. Sometimes I always feel that students, they don't think it's okay to look things up, and they feel like it's inferior. Like we've been trained in school, hey, memorize these vocabulary words. And with development, yeah, some of the things that we use all the time, you're going to know, but some of the other things, it's okay to look up. So let's look at this right here. This says for the one, we're already inside of the one class, and it says apply the box shadow. Okay. And so now looking at W3 schools, we now know that, okay, I see the first two values are 0, 0. So the horizontal and vertical, there is nothing. So 0, 0. And then the next one is the blur. So 3 pixels. Okay. And then we have the spread of 3 pixels. Perfect. And then we want to go ahead and apply this color for the shadow color. And then make sure we put a semicolon there. All right. I think that completes this one. Let's check our code. And there we go. All right. We're moving on to the next. All right. Step number 38. This one should go a lot quicker. It just basically tells us, hey, use the same thing that we did up here, but change the color. So I'm just going to copy this and come down here. I'm going to paste. All right, we can see that orange glow. We don't want that, but we would rather have the color that is up here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and grab it and do a replacement here. There we go. Let's go ahead and check our code. There we go. Moving on to the next. All right, looks like we're doing the box shadow again for number 39 here. And again, we'll just do box shadow. Okay. And then we're just going to grab these values here and put them here. All right, let's check the code. There we go. Moving on to number 40. All right, so step number 40, it says that the corners of each of the rectangles, they're looking sharp still. And we want to go ahead and round the one element by 9 pixels with the border radius property. I, again, just wanted to take a real quick pause and say, hey, this would be another great opportunity for you to take a look at some documentation of what the border radius is. Things that I would tell my students is, hey, just do a Google search, W3 schools, and go ahead and go over to do a search in Google for W3 schools and border radius. And this will pop up, and you can see a little bit about border radius properties. Are they wanting one value? Are they wanting multiple values? Like, how many values can I put in here? And one of the common things that you'll want to start learning with is, like, how do I make a circle? Border radius is part of that. How do you make an image a circle? So anyways, it says on here, by definition, this will help define how your borders will show up, right? And it says that it can take up to 4 values, and it corresponds with the corners. And the first one being this 15 is corresponding to the top left corner. And then we have the top right corner. So the 50 is being applied to here. And then the third value is over here, right? And so we're just going in a circle, right? Going from corner to corner. Now, this one down here, I'm sure we're going to see some of this in a couple more steps maybe, because the 3 value one, we're looking at 15, 50, and 30, okay? So it goes from the top left, and then the middle one, this one's going to be applied to diagonal corners, okay? So it goes from the top right, and then we have the bottom left. And then the third value here still gets applied to this one right here. So that's the 30, okay? When you have 2 values, you get this weird looking shape here. This is going to be diagonals, right? 15 pixels from the top left to bottom right. And then you get the 50 pixels on the top right and the bottom left. And then if you just have one value, that's going to be applied to all 4 of the corners. Okay, so those are the things that you might want to think about as we're going through some of these. And If I was teaching this live in class, I'd say, all right, so we're looking at this one and it wants 9 pixels. What are we envisioning in our mind? Is that going to be applied to all 4? Is that just going to be applied to 1? Is it going to be applied to the top left? What's that look like? And hopefully, going through the W3 Schools script that we just got done going through, you'll see that, hey, that 9 pixels is going to be applied to all of the corners. So we're just going to do border radius, and then we want to set that to 9 pixels, okay? And then you'll see that the yellow here is now all 4 of the corners are now rounded. Let's go and check our work, and there we go. Moving on to the next. All right, so step number 41 says that use the border radius property on 2 and just set the top left radius and the bottom right radius to 8 pixels and the top radius and the bottom left to 10 pixels. So glad that we looked at the W3 schools on this one, right? And it says the first value applies to the top left and the bottom right, which are diagonals. That's exactly what we wanted to do and learn about. That's what we're going to do. We're going to use the 2 value of the border radius. So border radius, and we want to set the top left. So it says the left radius and then the bottom right to 8 pixels. So we'll do 8 pixels, okay? And then we're going to hit the space bar. We're not going to use commas or anything like that. And then we want to set the other 2 diagonals to 10 pixels. So we'll do 10 pixels and then put the semicolon. So there we go. Congratulations. We're ready for the next one. Step number 42. It says in here that the property can accept values and that kind of go around the square, just like what we told you before with the top left, top bottom, and bottom left. So in this one here, it says that it wants 30 pixels on the left-hand side, top left, and then 25, and then 60, and then 12. So at least it gave it to us in the order that we want to type it in. But again, another example of, we could have went to W3 Schools to take a look at the how do you change each one individually and map those out. But we're going to do border radius, and then we're going to do 30 pixels. Then we want 25 pixels, 60 pixels, and then 12 pixels. Okay, don't forget the semicolon, and you can see how it was applied. 30 pixels goes here, and then the 25, then the 60, that's the big one, and then we have a little bit of a smaller one down here. All right, let's check our code. That looks great. We're almost done. Step number 43 with building a Rothko painting for FreeCodeCamp. It tells us on here that go ahead and use the transform property, and we want to apply this to the 1 class. And then also we want to rotate it counterclockwise. So that's a keyword here, counterclockwise, 0.6 degrees. Okay, again, something to look at when we're going through this W3 Schools. And I would do a Google search for W3 Schools, transform property, rotate. And those would be the keywords that I would type in and search. And you'll find it right here. This is the CSS rotate, and it gives you some examples on here, okay? And it says the CSS rotate will be defined by a 2-dimensional element. That's what we have. And it just provides us with values that can go in here. And we want the degrees, okay? And something that you'll notice here, and we can even click on this to try for ourselves, is we have 90 degrees, 45 degrees, and then we have this interesting one here, which is the minus, right? And so we can see that it rotated that image counterclockwise, okay? And if we use a positive number, it is clockwise. All right, so now that we know a little bit more about the W3 Schools and what we've learned with the rotate function, let's go ahead and apply what we've learned. So again, we want to rotate this in a counterclockwise motion. And that means that we're going to have to do the following. So let's go ahead and we're going to do transform, and then we want to apply the rotate function. And inside here, we want to specify the value. And in this case, we want negative 0.6. 0.6 what? We learned from W3 Schools, if we're doing degrees, it would be DEG, okay? And you can see that this yellow shifted a little, right? And it shifted in the counterclockwise direction. Let's go ahead and check our code. Perfect. All right, great. moving on to the next step. All right, we are on step number 44. It says we want to rotate this one clockwise of 0.4 degrees. And so I'm just going to copy what we had from up here, and then I'm going to paste that down here and just fix the numbers. Since we know that this one works, let's go ahead and change the number to 0.4. All right, check our, there we go. Moving on to the next. All right, we're on step number 45. Can you believe it? I think we're almost done, or hey, we are done. Great. So this is the last step here. It says rotate, add a rotate one to this one. Make sure it's counterclockwise, and it is 0.2. I still have some code on the clipboard here from the previous one. And we're going to go ahead and make sure that this is counterclockwise with a negative. And then we want the 0.2 on here. So let's go ahead and check our code. Congratulations. We are done with this. All right, the final thoughts on this whole exercise. It was a good exercise. We got to experience some documentation lookup and stuff throughout this to help us explain and go into a little more detail on some of these, like the rotate or the filter, right? And the CSS box model is always going to be present with all of your elements. And just know that there's going to be some tweaks and some nuances that are going to have to be handled later on. I don't know if we're going to be getting into it with the freeCodeCamp. It's just adding on to our knowledge and everything of what we've all learned so far. So we've done the photo app, and we've done some forms, and now we're doing CSS work. But CSS, I tell you, it is an art in its own, because sometimes it gets frustrating, especially learning, and even experienced developers may not like CSS. And so it's just going to be something that's going to be trial error. You think that it's going to work a certain way, but it doesn't. And then you might get a little flustered. But just know that there's ways to help you and help you think about your logic, especially now with AI out there, where you can give it your code and then say, hey, why is this element not working properly? And it will help explain and get you coding and get your thing done a lot quicker now with that, especially with the help of artificial intelligence. So anyways, hopefully if you lasted this long, that you enjoyed the video, you enjoyed the learning. And like I said, if you are interested in learning more, make sure that you like, subscribe, follow us here. And then I would also go even further in saying, if you're really looking to exponentially grow your learning, you might want to think about joining or taking one of our courses as well on PreCodeCamp to see how well you like it. All right, so we got a great community, and if you're looking for more of that one-on-one and group style of helping, make sure you take a look at us. All right, I'll see you in the next video, and until next time.